There's a moment in life that almost nobody talks about. Not the breakthrough, not the success story, not the everything finally worked out ending people post online. I mean the strange period right before all of that. The season where your life starts feeling unfamiliar before anything visibly changes. That's probably where you are right now. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you're going to understand why the confusion you've been carrying lately may actually be proof that your next chapter has already started. Because what if the reason nothing feels stable anymore is because the old version of your life can no longer contain who you're becoming? A few years ago, I remember sitting alone, late at night, after one of the hardest seasons of my life. Nothing dramatic was happening in that moment. No huge failure, no major event. But I couldn't shake this feeling that I had outgrown my own routine. The same conversations felt empty. The same goals stopped exciting me. Even the things I prayed for once no longer fit the person I was becoming. And honestly, that scared me. Because when your old life stops feeling right, but the new one hasn't arrived yet, it creates this uncomfortable middle space where you feel disconnected from everything. Most people think transformation feels inspiring. It doesn't. At first, it feels disorienting. And here's the dangerous part. During that in-between season, people often convince themselves something is wrong. They think, maybe I'm losing motivation. Maybe I'm becoming negative. Maybe I'm failing. But sometimes your spirit is not breaking down. Sometimes it's refusing to keep living in places that no longer match your future. Listen carefully to this. Not every closed feeling means you're being rejected. Sometimes life is quietly redirecting you. And I think that's exactly what's been happening to you. You've noticed it, haven't you? Certain friendships feel harder to maintain now. You're less willing to fake enthusiasm. Your tolerance for draining environments has become lower. You crave something deeper, more honest, more meaningful, even if you can't fully explain what that means yet. That's not random. That's growth becoming impossible to ignore. And I need you to understand something important before we go further. Growth rarely announces itself with confidence. Usually, it arrives as discomfort first, because your mind wants familiarity, even when familiarity is hurting you. That's why people stay in jobs that empty them, relationships that shrink them, habits that numb them. Not because they love those things, but because humans are wired to cling to what they already know. But eventually, there comes a point where staying the same becomes more painful than changing. That point changes everything. Maybe that's why this video found you today. Maybe part of you is finally tired of pretending you're okay with a life that no longer feels aligned. And I know that word aligned gets overused online, but real alignment is simple. It's when your outer life finally stops fighting your inner truth. That's what's trying to happen for you now. Not instantly, not magically, but gradually, quietly, piece by piece. And I want to say something that might hit harder than you expect. The things you lost recently may not have been punishments. They may have been filters. Think about it. Some people disappeared when you stopped overextending yourself. Some opportunities vanished when you stopped betraying your own values. Some doors closed the moment you began taking yourself seriously. At the time, it felt unfair. But what if those exits were creating space for a version of life you couldn't access while carrying everything from your past? Here's something nobody tells you. A new chapter often begins by making your current one uncomfortable. Because if your old environment still felt perfect, you would never leave it. That restlessness you feel, that emotional friction, that quiet urge to change your entire life, it's not there to torture you. It's there to wake you up. And I know some of you listening are exhausted. You've been strong for too long, healing for too long, waiting for too long. You keep asking yourself, when does it finally become my turn? But maybe the better question is this: who have you become during the waiting? Because the hardest seasons don't just delay people, they shape them. The patience you were forced to learn, the boundaries you had to build, the loneliness you survived, the disappointments you carried quietly, none of that was meaningless. You were developing emotional muscles your future will require. And one day you'll look back and realize the delay was not empty time, it was preparation. Let me give you an example. Imagine trying to place a massive tree inside a small flower pot. At first, it works. From the outside, everything even looks normal. The tree is standing. The leaves are still growing. People passing by might even compliment how strong it looks. But underneath the surface, something begins happening quietly. The roots start pressing against the edges. They begin searching for room that no longer exists. The container becomes tighter and tighter until eventually the tree can no longer grow the way it was meant to. Not because the tree is weak, not because it failed, but because growth eventually demands a different environment. And that is your life right now. A lot of what you've been calling confusion is actually expansion. You're not failing inside your current chapter. You're expanding beyond it. That's why certain things feel emotionally exhausting now when they used to feel manageable. That's why some conversations suddenly feel shallow. That's why forcing yourself into old versions of your life has started feeling strangely painful. Your soul knows before your mind does. Something inside you already understands that the person you are becoming cannot keep living inside spaces built for who you used to be. And yes, expansion feels messy before it becomes beautiful. Nobody talks enough about that part. Social media shows people after the transformation, after the glow up, after the breakthrough, after the confidence appears. But they rarely show the invisible season before all of it. The nights someone questioned their direction, the mornings they woke up feeling disconnected from their own life, the moments they wondered if they were losing themselves, when in reality, they were finally shedding what no longer belonged to them. That hidden season matters more than people realize, because that is where identity changes. And identity changes everything, not motivation. Motivation fades, not luck. Luck is inconsistent, not temporary emotion. Emotions move like weather. Identity, the way you see yourself quietly shapes every decision you make. The moment you stop seeing yourself as someone merely trying to survive, and start seeing yourself as someone worthy of peace, purpose, depth, love, and a meaningful future, your entire life begins reorganizing itself around that belief. Your standards rise naturally. Your tolerance for disrespect lowers. Your intuition becomes louder. Your energy starts protecting itself instead of begging to be chosen. You stop chasing things that drain you. You stop shrinking yourself just to make other people comfortable. You stop calling self-abandonment being nice. And slowly, your future changes direction. That's why this next phase of your life is not about becoming somebody fake, polished, or perfect. It's about becoming honest, really honest. Honest about what you deserve. Honest about what's been hurting you. Honest about the environments that keep dimming your spirit. Honest about the dreams you secretly buried because you were afraid people would judge them. And if this message is finding you at the exact right moment, pause for 1 second and comment this quietly below. I'm done shrinking. Not for motivation, not for me, but because sometimes a person needs to see their own decision written out in front of them before it finally feels real. Because the truth is, your next level will probably cost you access to people who only love the smaller version of you. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people felt comfortable when you doubted yourself. Some people benefited from your lack of boundaries. Some people liked you most when you were easier to control, easier to guilt, easier to silence. And that realization hurts, because growth often forces you to grieve people who are still alive. But listen carefully. You cannot keep abandoning your future just to remain familiar to your past. Read that internally one more time, because somebody listening to this needed permission to finally stop apologizing for evolving. The version of you emerging from this season is different. You can feel it in subtle ways. Maybe you crave solitude more than before. Maybe you've stopped needing constant validation. Maybe your heart has become more protective of its peace. Maybe you're beginning to realize how much of your life was built around survival instead of alignment. That awareness is not weakness, it's awakening. And yes, there will still be moments where fear visits you, moments where you overthink, moments where you wonder whether you're truly ready for what's ahead, moments where part of you wants to retreat back toward familiarity because at least familiarity is predictable. But you do not need complete certainty to move forward. You only need enough courage to stop running backward. That's it. And maybe that's what this entire season has been teaching you. Not how to become fearless, but how to stop betraying yourself just to avoid change. Because if you're honest, a part of you already knows the old version of your life cannot carry you much further. You've felt it in quiet moments. The exhaustion that rest doesn't fully fix. The feeling of being surrounded by people, yet still emotionally alone. The strange ache of succeeding at things that no longer fulfill you. The growing distance between who you truly are and who you've been pretending to be just to keep everything stable. That feeling is important. Don't ignore it. People often think awakening arrives like lightning. Sudden, dramatic, undeniable. But most real transformations begin softly. A slow shift in what you tolerate. A slow shift in what you crave. A slow shift in the way your soul reacts to things it once accepted without question. And eventually, the inner shift becomes too strong to keep hidden. There is a life trying to meet you on the other side of this chapter. A life where you no longer feel emotionally cramped every day. A life where peace matters more than appearances. A life where your relationships feel mutual instead of one-sided. A life where you don't wake up every morning already emotionally tired. A life where your spirit finally feels like it has room to breathe. A life where you stop constantly proving your worth and finally begin living from it. not perfect, but real. And real is infinitely more healing than perfect will ever be, because perfection is exhausting. Perfection keeps people trapped performing versions of themselves that look acceptable from the outside, while quietly draining them from within. But realness heals. Realness allows you to exhale, to stop pretending, to stop chasing validation from people who were never capable of seeing you clearly in the first place. So if you've been feeling emotionally unsettled lately, if your old life has started feeling strangely distant, if your habits, desires, and priorities are shifting in ways you can't fully explain yet, don't panic. Not every internal earthquake is there to destroy your life. Some are there to wake you up. Your future may already be pulling you toward it, and that pull can feel uncomfortable at first because growth often asks you to release things before it reveals what's replacing them. That's the hard part. Humans want guarantees before they let go, but transformation rarely works that way. First comes the discomfort, then comes the clarity, first comes the ending, then comes the alignment. And before this video ends, I want you to make a quiet decision with yourself. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one, not something performative, just something honest. Decide that you are no longer going to interpret every uncomfortable transition as proof that your life is collapsing. Because sometimes life becomes uncomfortable because your soul has outgrown where you are. Sometimes confusion is not destruction. Sometimes it's reconstruction. Sometimes your identity has already started evolving while your external life is still catching up. And that gap between the inner change and the outer reality can feel incredibly lonely. But it does not mean you're lost. It means you're in transition. And transitions are uncomfortable because they require you to become unfamiliar to yourself for a little while, to release old coping mechanisms, old identities, old attachments, old beliefs about what you deserve. That process is painful sometimes, but pain is not always punishment. Sometimes pain is the feeling of expansion happening in real time. And one day, maybe sooner than you think, you're going to look back at this exact season and realize something that changes the way you see your entire journey. The loneliness was shaping you. The delays were refining you. The endings were redirecting you. The confusion was preparing you. The silence was teaching you to hear yourself again. None of it was meaningless. Even the moments you thought you were falling behind, something deeper was still unfolding underneath the surface. This was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your reinvention. Your new phase is not someday. It has already begun quietly beneath the surface. In the boundaries you've started setting, in the peace you've started craving, in the truths you can no longer ignore, in the version of yourself slowly learning that surviving is not the same thing as living. And the person you are becoming right now is going to look back at this version of you with overwhelming gratitude for choosing not to give up here. Because this moment, the confusing, uncertain, emotionally stretching moment you're in right now, may one day become the chapter that changed everything.